The question of why memories of past lives remain inaccessible occupies the minds of many who ponder the cyclical nature of existence and the possibility of reincarnation. Even if the idea of death and rebirth seems distant from one's personal worldview, considering this question can be interesting from a philosophical or anthropological perspective. And even if existing notions of death differ from the generally accepted, or a person takes an agnostic stance, the hypothesis of reincarnation deserves attention as one possible scenario. The answer to why we don't remember past lives may be surprisingly simple and obvious, hidden in everyday life. In the cosmology of Buddhism, it is said that after death, the physical body is abandoned, and consciousness passes into an intermediate state, known in Sanskrit as bardo and in Tibetan as bardu. In this state, residing in the so-called subtle body, the soul awaits its next birth. A detailed examination of this mysterious state, as well as exploring the origins of traditions associated with the 40 days after death, funeral rites, tales of ghosts, and the inexplicable feeling of loss of a loved one, will be the subject of a separate study. It is from this intermediate state that the soul is directed to its new incarnation, leaving behind the threshold of memory all that was experienced in previous lives. Buddhist cosmology, encompassing both mortal human bodies on Earth and the ethereal abodes of higher worlds, stretches into boundless distances. Rebirths entail radical transformations not only of the physical shell, but also of the mental sphere. The new world, especially if it is far from the familiar human one, strikes with its otherness. Different laws of time and logic prevail in it, which makes it difficult to remember the former existence. To comprehend this changeability, it is enough to turn to the experience of dreams. A vivid and exciting dream, full of experiences and important events, instantly fades upon awakening. Memories of it slip through your fingers like sand. Observing this process gives a unique feeling and allows you to experience the nature of memory. A conscious effort of will can stop the slippage of dream memories. This ability, inherent in everyone, underlies Buddhist yoga of lucid dreaming. This practice is valuable as preparation for dying and the afterlife experience, since the bardo of sleep and the bardo of death have common features. Why do memories of a recently experienced dream disappear so quickly and sometimes remain? And why can we influence this process at will? These questions open the way to a deep understanding of the nature of consciousness and reality. Modern Western science is showing interest in studying the processes of forgetting and preserving dreams, as well as the possibility of consciously influencing these processes. Such studies seem promising, capable of revealing fundamental aspects of the functioning of human memory. However, one should not rely solely on scientific research, because each person has a unique opportunity to independently explore their inner world. As the Buddha said, self-knowledge is the key to understanding oneself. An interesting phenomenon is the ability to remember one dream during another, which is impossible in a waking state. Moreover, sometimes a dream can resume years later, as if continuing an interrupted plot. This suggests that the memory of dreams is stored in the depths of our minds, which are usually inaccessible. People who see recurring dreams sometimes realize this directly in the dream, as if experiencing an already familiar experience. Similar sensations can occur when repeating significant events that took place in past lives. This is not just déjà vu, but a deeper feeling of recognition when a person vaguely feels that the event occurred not years, but centuries ago. Like memories of dreams, memories of past lives elude us, but to a much greater extent, since the transition between sleep and reality is less significant than the transition between lives. Memories of childhood, from 4 or 5 to 10 or 12 years, often appear as fragmented pieces. It is often found that entire years are erased from memory, and only individual moments emerge from the remaining periods. Months, especially over time, disappear without a trace. But these are not just dreams, these are lost fragments of one's own life that happened relatively recently. Memory is subject to erasure, but it does not disappear completely, but only goes deep into consciousness. There are people who have the ability to restore to memory every hour of their life, and under hypnosis, many are able to recall events that seemed long forgotten. Triggers help to remember the forgotten, objects, sounds, words, and especially smells, which are surprisingly closely related to memory, much stronger than visual images. Similarly, with past lives, there are triggers that can awaken fragments of memories, even if only as fleeting fragmented images. It's worth trying to recall a year from childhood that is poorly etched in your memory, and try to capture the feeling of resistance as if a misty wall conceals what is actually remembered. These two sensations, the elusive dream and the veil concealing the past, are key to understanding how it's possible not to remember past lives. In Buddhist practice, it is believed that recalling past births is entirely possible, although extremely difficult. This ability relates to siddhis, unusual supernatural powers, attained in the process of spiritual practice as a side effect. Full realization of this ability becomes possible upon reaching the fourth wall from jhanas, which is a topic for separate discussion. According to the teachings of the Buddha, a person is capable of developing supernatural abilities by relying on concentration, diligence, and an inquisitive mind, which together form the basis for unlocking inner potential. Developing these qualities leads to a rich radiance, when the four bases of supernatural powers are nurtured and strengthened. One manifestation of this development is the ability to remember numerous past lives, covering periods from a single lifetime to hundreds of thousands, including cycles of world disintegration and evolution. It's worth noting that glimpses of memories of past lives can occur in some practitioners and even in people who do not engage in spiritual practices, depending on their individual characteristics. Adults are often inclined to ignore these sensations, finding no explanation for them, while children, thanks to their spontaneity, express their feelings more openly, especially if they recognize the unusual nature of what is happening. Memories of past lives are stored in the deepest layers of our consciousness, deeper than detailed childhood memories, dreams, or even our native language. Accessing these memories requires a mind trained in concentration, which is a challenging but achievable task. Concentration meditation is the primary method for achieving this goal. By honing the mind to a razor's edge and achieving mastery in controlling it, one can maintain focus steadily, like a focused ray of sunshine passing through a lens. This allows one to direct attention into the deep layers of the mind and penetrate the memory of past births. It's important to understand that this process requires not brute force or tension, but rather a delicate approach, comparable to using a scalpel instead of an axe. Therefore, before embarking on practice, it's necessary to carefully study the principles of concentration meditation and the correct methods of performing it. On this path, mistakes and obstacles are possible, but they can be avoided and overcome by studying the potential difficulties and ways to overcome them. A focused, balanced, and masterfully controlled mind opens doors to achievements that seem beyond possible to us today. This is a fundamental principle. Auxiliary methods include mastering lucid dreaming, which allows one to maintain the thread of memory when transitioning between different states of consciousness. Equally important is the practice of mindfulness in everyday life, which develops the ability to notice details, to be attentive to the present moment, and to be aware of even the most subtle movements of the mind and processes associated with memory. The question of memories from past lives is complex and multifaceted, but an attentive and persistent researcher will certainly be able to unravel its intricacies.